Hey, how's it going, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. So today I actually wanted to go over my top 10 favorite fragrances that are currently in my personal collection. Now, this isn't really in order of, 1 through 10, but, some of these I prefer for certain occasions, for different, seasons, whatever it may be. And so just to sort of jump right into it, first one will be Tom Ford's Beau de Jour. And this one I really like for the office specifically. The reason I say that is because it's not, a super fresh fragrance. It's also not a super dark fragrance. And it's sort of in between. So, generally in the offices, it's air conditioned, climate controlled. And so you don't really have to worry too much about, which season it is outside. Because, it's always, 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And so this being sort of that in between, and also, smelling sort of upscale, you can kind of consider it. It is sort of a barbershop fragrance, but what I sort of get is sort of this grain, slightly earthy freshness to it. That of course I really enjoy. Now the next one over is actually sort of a more nostalgic fragrance for me. This one is Versace's Dylan Blue. Now, Dylan Blue was actually my second ever fragrance that I ever purchased, so that one is more so nostalgic for me. However, I do also still really enjoy this one. It's actually my favorite one out of the blue fragrances. The reason is it still has that sort of aquatic freshness, but also I believe it has some incense in there. And so that gives it sort of some depth into it, which at least for me, I don't typically tend to pick up on too much on other fragrances, at least other blue fragrances that are out there. So I really find this one to be very versatile. I can wear it for the most part in the summer. I can wear it in the winter, fall, spring, pretty much whenever, for any occasion. So I still really like, gravitating towards this one whenever, I just wanted to throw something on. Now another one that also is nostalgic for me is Azzaro's The Most Wanted. Now this one is sort of it's more of a winter type of fragrance. I wouldn't say it's super heavy, super dark. It's more so, has sort of a little bit of a brightness to it, but it is very sweet. So I get some orange out of this, and also it almost smells a little bit cotton candy-ish to me. But I really enjoy it. Again, it's more of a sweet fragrance. I also like the bottle, so that sort of helps. But yeah, that's that one there. Next, I'll sort of go more into the sort of fresher fragrances that I really enjoy. One is Alexandria's Black Panther. Now this one is, as I'm sure many of you know, sort of an imitation or inspired by of Bulgari's Tiger. Now this one is a very fresh fragrance. It does sort of lean pretty heavily into the grapefruit note, which is what I really enjoy about it. It's not just a plain aquatic or plain, just fresh out of the shower type of scent. Because it has that grapefruit in there, it gives a little bit more interest into it, a little bit more depth, makes it a little bit more complex. And, even though grapefruit has, been a little bit more prevalent nowadays in fragrances, it's still not really something that you smell very commonly, just out in the real world. So I find that this one, always smells great. I like to wear it when I go to the beach or I'm doing some sort of, outdoor activity. I like to gravitate towards that one there. Now another sort of fresh fragrance, this is actually a recent pickup for me, is Parfums de Marly Sedley. Now I've had my eye on this for quite a while, but just never really pulled the trigger on it. But the best way to describe this one is smells like how Sprite tastes. So what I mean by that is, it's a little bit citrusy, but also has that sort of sparkliness, carbonation sort of smell to it, if that makes any sense. But I really enjoy it. Again, it's super fresh, perfect for the summertime. More than likely this year in the summer, this will be my go-to. It's an easy wear. No one is really going to find it offensive or, not really enjoy it. So that's that one there. And next I have Xerjoff's Renaissance. Now I just have a sample of it here, but I do plan on picking up a full bottle here pretty soon. And so this one, what I actually get from that is sort of a green, leafy, sort of orange tree kind of smell. But this one actually develops quite a bit over time for me. You know, it sort of changes on how the scent smells. Sometimes it's very green for me. Sometimes it's almost bubblegum-ish. So it really changes over time, which is what I really enjoy about it. You know, it still maintains the freshness in there, but it's perfect for the spring, I would say. You know, because it's not just super, super fresh. It does have some of that greenness in there, which, you know, tends to be more so prevalent in the springtime. Now, another mostly fresh fragrance is Club de Nuit Intense Man. Now, this one is also a little bit sort of nostalgic for me because, again, it's one of the first fragrances that I picked up. This one I actually picked up when I first sort of started getting into the field of fragrances. You know, when I first started, you know, watching YouTube videos and, you know, going more in depth into the world of it. That was one of my first pickups because that's when, you know, it started getting really popular at the time. But this one, as many of you know, is sort of inspired by of Creed Aventus, which is a smoky sort of pineapple fragrance. So now it is very fresh. However, because it has that smokiness to it, it's very versatile. So you could use it, you know, in the summer, fall, spring, winter, whenever you'd like. Could be a one-stop shop fragrance for you. But it still smells great. Club de Nuit Intense Man, the EDT that I have currently here, this one, at first smell, it is a little bit harsh, but it sort of smooths out over time. I also have another one that's pretty similar to this, which is Mancera's Citra Boisé Intense. That's also sort of a smoky pineapple. However, that one, because the Intense goes a little bit darker, a little bit richer. So that one more so is a fall, sort of spring, winter fragrance, especially because of how strong these two fragrances are. But that's another one that I really enjoy. Again, it's sort of an easy wear for me. Whenever I don't really know what exactly I want to wear, I can rely on these. Now, to go a little bit darker and richer is Moschino's Toy Boy. Now, I've mentioned this one quite a bit in my previous videos, but this one is a very rose-heavy, sort of a jammy rose type of fragrance. So I wouldn't say it's super, super fresh. I wouldn't say it's, you know, something that I would gravitate towards when it's 100, 110 degrees outside. But again, in the springtime, fall time, this one's perfect. You know, especially with the rose, generally in the springtime, that's when the flowers start to bloom. So sort of correlates there a little bit. But that's another one that I really enjoy. And to go a little bit darker and richer, I have another sample of Frederic Malle's Musk Ravageur. And so this one, I don't really know exactly how to describe it, but the best way that I describe it usually is, you know, in the best way possible. Some of these fragrances that have, or not fragrances, but some of these animals that, you know, they give off certain scents or pheromones to attract, you know, whichever partner they're looking for. That's how I imagine this smells because it is very sort of a seductive kind of fragrance. You know, it's not super, super dark. It's not super, super rich, but it is rich enough and dark enough to, you know, be interesting. Has depth to it, has complexity to it. Again, don't really know how to explain it really, but I really enjoy it. It's something that I, again, plan on picking up a bottle of here pretty soon. And to close it off is one of my sort of richest and darkest scents, Dior Sauvage Elixir. Now, this one, as many of you know, one spray is enough for the entire day, especially with the pressurized atomizer. And so this one I enjoy because it has sort of a hint or a touch of freshness in it, but it is still very dark and rich. So this is definitely a wintertime fragrance, again, especially because of how strong it is. It can definitely cut through the cold nights, cold days. Again, one spray is enough for the entire day. It can go on for 14 hours plus if it wanted to. But again, it still has a little bit of freshness. So it's not, you know, super, you know, complex that people are going to be put off by it. because it has that freshness, but also has some nutmeg and some licorice in there. So it is fairly sweet as well. But yeah, that will be my 10 for today. Please let me know in the comments, which fragrances you really enjoy. Maybe give me your top 3, so I can have some ideas on what to pick up in the near future. But that'll be it for me today, as mentioned, and hope you have a great rest of your day.